Have you ever noticed how people change over time? How emotions that were once so difficult to control slowly transform into something calmer, more mature, and more accepting? Looking at Jungkook today, many might recognize him as a much calmer figure than in the early days of BTS's debut. But long before he learned to control his feelings, there was a period when certain emotions were clearly visible in his expressions. Feelings that came naturally, even before he himself understood what they truly meant. In this video, we'll go back to the early years of BTS's journey to see how Jungkook's reactions to Taehyung gradually evolved from simple friendly concern to something much more complex. This isn't about confirming the authenticity of a relationship, but rather observing the moments captured on camera and how many fans interpreted them over time. This story takes us back to 2013, when BTS was still at the beginning of their journey. The members were very young, had busy schedules, and were learning to cope with the increasing public scrutiny. Amidst all of this, there's a small moment in the 7th episode of Rookie King that still resonates today. The situation was actually quite simple. While Jin was serving his punishment game, Taehyung approached him, grabbed his hand, and then playfully pulled him closer. The atmosphere on set was light and filled with laughter. But amidst the bustle, the camera accidentally caught something different. Jungkook's gaze slowly shifted. He watched every interaction unfolding before him with an increasingly serious expression. His eyes shifted from Jin to Taehyung, then back again as if trying to comprehend something he couldn't yet explain. The longer the situation went on, the more obvious it became that Jungkook's attention never truly left Taehyung. When Taehyung touched Jin's hand, Jungkook remained attentive. When Taehyung laughed, his gaze remained fixed in the same direction. Even when the camera panned wider, he seemed to lean forward slightly, as if he didn't want to miss anything. What was interesting wasn't Taehyung's actions, but how Jungkook reacted to them. No words were spoken, no protests were heard, just an expression that gradually became more serious than before. At 16, he probably didn't understand why seeing Taehyung showing so much attention to someone else evoked such a strange feeling within him. Time passed, and several months later, BTS was filming the music video for Beautiful. After filming wrapped, the members were asked to share their thoughts on the shoot. At first, the atmosphere was relaxed. Taehyung and Jungkook joked around as usual, pushing each other, laughing, and making the atmosphere lively. However, the conversation took a turn when Jungkook brought up a scene involving Taehyung and a female actress. He jokingly mentioned that Taehyung had made several mistakes while filming the hug scene, which had to be retaken. Everyone laughed, including Taehyung himself. But the longer the discussion went on, the more it became clear that there was more to it than just a casual joke. When Taehyung repeatedly explained that it was all just a technical error and unintentional, Jungkook continued to insist on his point. What initially felt like a lighthearted moment slowly turned slightly awkward. Taehyung tried to calm the situation while continuing to laugh, but Jungkook seemed unsatisfied with his answer. The way he looked at Taehyung, the change in his tone of voice, and even his reaction when Taehyung joked about repeating the scene over and over again all suggested that there were far more complex feelings at work behind the scenes. He tried to smile, but the expression didn't last long. Ultimately, Jungkook chose to walk away from the situation, leaving the impression that the conversation was still bothering him. What made this moment interesting was the fact that there was no logical reason for a normal friend to be so concerned about a scene that was simply part of work. Yet, that's precisely where many fans began to notice a change. Jungkook seemed to start feeling something different whenever Taehyung got too close to someone else. A feeling he probably couldn't even name at the time. The more he tried to ignore it, the more often it surfaced in unexpected situations. And over time, those spontaneous reactions became increasingly difficult to hide. A few weeks later, in September 2013, BTS appeared on After School Club. During a relaxed interview, the members were asked a simple question: if they could date any of the BTS members, who would they choose? Taehyung was one of the first to answer. With a warm smile, he chose Hobie. His answer was immediately met with laughter and a cheerful atmosphere in the studio. When asked to explain his reasoning, Taehyung said that Hobie was clean and tidy. That brief explanation seemed enough to make everyone smile. However, when the camera panned to all the members simultaneously, many fans' attention was drawn to one person. Without hesitation, Jungkook immediately took the microphone and announced that he too was clean and tidy. The statement sounded simple, but the way he said it caught everyone's attention. It was as if he subconsciously wanted to demonstrate that he too met the criteria Taehyung had just mentioned. Perhaps it was just an off-the-cuff comment. Perhaps there was no real meaning behind it. But when viewed alongside previous moments, these reactions felt like part of a pattern slowly taking shape. A pattern that suggested Jungkook's attention to Taehyung's choices and actions seemed to have a greater meaning than it appeared on the surface. As October 2013 approached, the changes became increasingly difficult to ignore. While previously they seemed like fleeting reactions, now various moments began to reveal Jungkook's growing difficulty hiding his feelings. The first year of BTS's journey seemed to be a period when many new emotions began to emerge within him. Emotions that were confusing, difficult to explain, and even uncomfortable. The more he encountered situations involving Taehyung and other people, the more apparent it became that an internal struggle was taking place. And according to many fans who had followed their journey from the beginning, this was the phase when Jungkook slowly began to realize that his feelings for Taehyung were no longer as simple as he had once imagined. As the years went by, the atmosphere around the BTS members slowly began to display a dynamic that was increasingly interesting to observe. Their busy schedules meant they spent almost all their time together, whether during practice, filming, traveling, or various promotional activities. In such an environment, even the slightest change in a person's demeanor becomes more readily apparent to those around him. For Jungkook, who was still a teenager and experiencing many changes in his life, new emotions seemed to come along with experiences he had never encountered before. Every time Taehyung interacted with the other members, the camera repeatedly captured Jungkook's attention, seemingly automatically drawn in the same direction. It wasn't through any flashy words or actions, but through glances, pauses in expression, and spontaneous reactions that came without preparation. Precisely because they seemed so natural, these moments continued to be discussed among fans who had followed their journey since their debut. What made this period feel different was the fact that Jungkook seemed to be in a position he couldn't quite grasp on his own. On the one hand, the camaraderie among the BTS members remained warm and supportive. They joked with each other, shared stories, and faced challenges together as a group striving to achieve big dreams. But on the other hand, some of Jungkook's reactions revealed an inner struggle that he couldn't always hide. When the atmosphere relaxed, he could laugh freely as usual. However, in certain moments involving Taehyung, his expression sometimes changes in a matter of seconds. The changes don't always last long, but they're enough to make many viewers wonder what he's really thinking at that moment. For some, this might simply be part of the personality of a teenager still learning to understand themselves. But for those who pay attention to every detail of BTS's journey, these reactions feel like they have a deeper meaning.